What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the last week or so, there's been a lot of breaking news around Sony for a certain hacking situation they've been trying to navigate, but now it looks like there was another data breach that took place, and this time Sony decided to issue a warning around it. We'll go over that, though, here today. Also, we are going to be talking about an interesting situation unfolding for Nintendo with one of their big October releases that appears to be having demos popping up in certain areas, making people wonder if maybe a big eShop demo is on deck. And we'll also be talking about the Japanese sales charts, as some of the recent results are something we haven't seen in quite some time. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Assassin's Creed Mirage. It is out now, and I'm enjoying my time with it as more of a call back to the original Assassin's Creed, back to its roots, as opposed to having all of these RPG elements flying all over the place and these ridiculously massive, overwhelming, you could even say, worlds to explore. But Ubisoft did something pretty frustrating here on the PC side, because we of course had reviews get out there, and that means that performance reviews happened. So Ubisoft decided, okay, well, now that's all done, we're going to go ahead and drop Denuvo in with a day one patch, that being 1.02, as people noticed that, yes, the DRM had been added and activated, which it's frustrating because Denuvo does not help out performance. In fact, it typically ends up hurting the performance, and at times can introduce all kinds of bugs and issues, especially with some of these handheld PCs that we're using now. It's roll the dice if it'll launch it even at this point. But it is really, really annoying to see, because they got the reviews and then Ubisoft pushes the DRM, which typically means that, yes, people who pirate the game will probably have a better experience than the people who actually buy the game. So just be aware, yes, Assassin's Creed Mirage, currently on PC, does have Denuvo, which again added through that day one patch. Also, here's a fun announcement, one that we had already kind of got word of, that there was going to be another LEGO collaboration with Nintendo, and they decided to reveal it here. That's right, welcome to LEGO Animal Crossing. So we have this from Nintendo. LEGO also put out a press release and launched a website for it, but no indication as to what sets are going to be available or any. I mean, we see some of the characters here kind of in Lego form. You can kind of get an idea as to what they'll do, like whether Tom Nook's shop or maybe just a house that you can kind of build in with all these different accessories and so on there. And Animal Crossing, to me, makes a ton of sense for Lego. Animal Crossing at this time is seeing the greatest success ever in franchise history, and it seems like with kind of the more mainstream casual audience, Lego would pair perfectly with that. So we still need to see what kind of sets they'll have included with this, and of course cost and all of that too. But to me, it seems like a good idea, so I guess we'll just have to keep an eye out for when they're ready to announce what exactly you can get in Lego form from the Animal Crossing universe. Oh, and while we did talk about Nintendo announcing the shutdown for online services with the 3DS and the Wii U April 2024, it does appear, at least for Pokemon fans, they still have access to the bank, but they may want to start transferring stuff around before they don't have it, which we can see this posted up over on Twitter from Play Pokemon, saying Nintendo 3DS online services, of course, will be discontinued April 2024. While Pokemon Bank can be used beyond that date, we encourage players to transfer their Pokemon to Pokemon Home at their earliest convenience. That basically means, hey, Pokemon Bank, yeah, it's gonna be going away at some point, potentially soon. It seems like it's set to at least live beyond that April 2024 time when the 3DS online services will be shuttered, but not too much longer, I'd say. So yeah, if you have any Pokemon in the Pokemon Bank now that you want to hold on to beyond that shutdown, might want to work to get them out of there and into Pokemon Home. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony and another data breach. Now, there was an entire situation that we had gone over previously, as Sony appears to still be investigating it, but basically a ransomware group managed to gain access to some of Sony's servers and pulled a bunch of information from it, and it was hard to exactly gather what they had taken and really how valuable and how dangerous that information was, but then another group came in and was basically saying it's not as bad as it could have been. It's like developer portal stuff, and that's sort of where we're left with it at this time. But now it looks like the other data breach that was shown off by Bleeping Computer and reported on would actually affect thousands of former and current employees at Sony. We can see this posted up by Bleeping Computer, where they say Sony Interactive Entertainment has notified current and former employees and their family members about a cybersecurity breach that exposed personal information. The company sent the data breach notification to about 6,800 individuals, confirming that the intrusion occurred after an unauthorized party exploited a zero-day vulnerability in the Move It transfer platform. Now, this is a quote from Sony again. It appears that Bleeping Computer got a hold of that notification or able to go through it. They say on June 2nd, 2023, SIE discovered the unauthorized downloads, immediately took the platform offline, and remedied the vulnerability. An investigation was then launched with assistance from external cybersecurity experts. We also notified law enforcement. Once SIE identified the downloaded files, we began a process to determine what types of personal information were affected and to whom it relates. While we worked quickly, this was a time-consuming process. We want to provide you with accurate information. And at this time, Sony has offered credit monitoring and identity restoration services, this through Equifax. Apparently, they can keep access using their code through February 29th, 2024. And this, again, follows up, technically, I mean, I guess it happened before that, but this just follows up reports of the other hack that had happened with the ransomware group, and it just seems like Sony has been really going through it recently, whether it's all this hacking stuff or situation with some of their big developers with Naughty Dog and Jim Ryan leaving. It's been an interesting stretch for Sony, but in this case, though, 6,800 former and current employees as well as family members, that's not good. So obviously this is something that Sony is continuing to monitor as they go forward with credit monitoring, identity, and all of that. I guess the one thing that could have made this really bad is if a bunch of customer information got out there as well. At least at this time, does not appear to be the case, but who knows? At this rate, Sony's just getting information back constantly that they're dealing with all these hacking situations. So I guess we'll keep an eye out for anything like that with Sony. Hopefully this is the extent of it. They figured it out and now they're moving on from here, but who knows? The internet, it's not exactly a friendly place. Next up, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts. This, of course, tracks the physical sales in Japan week to week. And this was an interesting one because there were a bunch of games in the top 10 that were for PlayStation, and that's not typical. In fact, many times we'll see a clean sweep of all Nintendo games from 1 through 10. But let's actually take a look at the top 10 here, starting with Fate's Samurai Remnant, that is on the Nintendo Switch, 34,728. Then we have Infinity Strash Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai. Unfortunately, that game did not do very well, 24,367. Dragon Quest in Japan is usually massive. I will tell you though, I played a little bit of this game. It's not very good. Like it's just not, which is very, very unfortunate because some of the stuff we had seen previously sort of built this game up. I thought it would be a really, really cool action RPG, and it's not. It's you can kind of tell it's lower budget, but it is definitely a lot of choose this spot on the world map. You'll see some lower budget, lower end cutscenes, and then you go to the next one, and then it's a very primitive feeling action RPG game. That's the best I can say about it. So I look for that one on a sale. Maybe if you really like the source material that they're pulling from. Then we have Fate's Samurai Remnant on the PS5 at 21,569. Then we have Ys 10 Nordics. That's on the PS5, however, 18,563. Pikmin 4 holding up there at the 5th spot. Then EA Sports FC 24 on the Switch. And then the PS5. Next, we get to Ys 10 Nordics. That's at number 8 on the Switch. So you can kind of see the Ys audience still gravitating towards the PlayStation platform as there are significantly more Switch systems in Japan. but it's selling more on the PlayStation 5 console. Then we also have Fate Samurai Remnant on the PS4, and then we have EA Sports FC 24 on the PS4 to round out the top 10. If we move over to hardware, though, the Nintendo Switch is at the top, 56,528. Then we have the PS5, 45,946. The Xbox Series, 4,528. I do want to point out that the Xbox Series has crossed over that 500,000 mark in Japan. I think when it's all said and done, if the Xbox Series is able to cross 1 million units sold in Japan, I think that'd be actually a pretty big success for Microsoft in Japan after what happened with the Xbox One, but they would have to still double up from where they are now, so we'll see how their efforts continue in Japan for the rest of this generation. Then we have the PS4 at 423, and somehow they found 27 3DSs in the back. So as I'd mentioned, this is not necessarily a typical looking top 10 in Japan from what we've known over the last several years now with the Switch. Occasionally get one of those games that pop up like Final Fantasy 16 or something, but for the most part, it's all Nintendo games. But here, we are seeing an interesting mix of different titles for the PlayStation as well as the Switch, and in some cases, the PlayStation version just outselling the Switch, even though there are just significantly more Switch systems. Now, the Switch continues to sell really well in Japan, but I mean, eventually they're going to run out of people to sell it to, as we all figure. However, Nintendo, though, with their system being in the 6th, 7th year, is still cruising along there in Japan. It was just a very interesting looking week in the Famitsu sales, something we're not necessarily used to. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo's big game coming up, that's Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Not too far off, just a couple of weeks, and it's very exciting, although it's also out the same day as Spider-Man 2, so going back and forth between them, it's going to be a whole thing there, right? But people, of course, saw the demos that took place. Nintendo's been running events like Nintendo Live, where they had, Super Mario Bros. Wonder available to try out. And now it appears they're rolling this out basically all over the place. At least that appears to be what people are finding when they walk into places like Walmart, GameStop, and Target. In fact, Go Nintendo had posted up an article citing this person, Just Cliff, who had a little YouTube video, a short, where they were trying it out there in store. And as this has kind of evolved over the last 24 hours, we've seen these kiosks spotted at GameStop and Walmart as well. So the fact that this demo is rolling out so, rapidly at this time, it does make you wonder, as people are asking, would we potentially see a demo show up, say, on the eShop, and you could download it maybe next week to get started? Well, we have seen demos go out from Nintendo for some of their games ahead of release for you to try out, and sometimes even transfer your data over. I don't know. Does Super Mario Bros. Wonder need that? Because I feel like most people are already sold on it because it's Mario, and in this case, it's just more for marketing in-store next to the product. Now, this does mean that you can, of course, go out and try it right now, provided, I guess, the person at Target or Walmart near you decided to drop the cartridge in, or however they're setting up those kiosks nowadays. But it does also remind me a bit of the old days when you would have to go out to the store to try a new game in a kiosk. And yeah, that's something we don't see very often anymore. I'm sure people were kind of surprised, like, oh, I can't just download it on the store and play the demo. No, you have to go outside and go to the store to play it. It reminds me of back in the day on the Xbox 360 when that was first coming out. You would go to like a GameStop or an FYE or Best Buy, and they had the system there behind like the 2-inch thick plastic, and you'd play Call of Duty 2 that way. So there you go. Now you can relive those experiences with apparently Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about an interesting release that Sony announced yesterday, and then they just kind of dropped it on the PlayStation 5. We can see this posted up over on PlayStation Blog, where they say Sony Pictures Core, formerly Bravia Core. Did anyone really use Bravia Core or were familiar with it? I wasn't, but okay. It launches on PS5 and PS4 consoles, exclusive benefits including early access to select Sony Pictures films. And in fact, if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber, they have sort of a curated section of different movies that you can just kind of watch. It's sort of like having like a mini Netflix in there, because the movies aren't exactly amazing or anything for the ones that you have available for PlayStation Plus. I took a quick look, and they have like loopers in there. Kingsglaive, that's the Final Fantasy 15 movie, Elysium. There's some Resident Evil stuff in there. I did notice that they also have Final Fantasy Spirits Within. Huh? Okay, fine. Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, that's also in there. Some of the older Godzilla movies, even. So there are some pretty fun, like, popcorn movies in there. But the interesting thing that I noticed is, for example, if you rent, or buy, I guess, Gran Turismo, that actually will attach to your Gran Turismo game. You get a little voucher for it, and it'll add credits in. So it kind of seems like Sony is attempting to attach this to their games as well, of course, forming that one big ecosystem, and I guess technically renaming it here and adding it into the PlayStation right away just kind of jumpstarts it a bit more and connects their games and their media together. So I don't know, it's an interesting idea there. I guess at least there are some fun movies you could check out if you're a PlayStation Plus member, since they basically just became available out of nowhere. You just have to go on there, download the app, and fire it up. But yeah, let me know what you think about this one, the idea of maybe renting movies, but then also getting stuff for your games on top of it. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you own a Nintendo 3DS, have you played it recently? Okay, so 62% say no, I haven't played my 3DS in a long time. 30% say yes, I played it in the last month or so, and then 8% say yes, I played it today. So I'm sure Nintendo looks at the statistics, how many people are actually signing in, playing the 3DS, playing the Wii U. The Wii U's gotta be like, gotta be just a couple of people, a handful maybe at a time playing something on there. Not that there aren't necessarily like smaller groups of dedicated fans, but for Nintendo holding up the infrastructure and the servers and all of this for what they view as a legacy like setup, and Nintendo's gonna cut that off eventually. It just feels very soon, and maybe it's because the 3DS came out in, what, 2011? So it's, yeah, technically it's 12 years ago, but even that, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago to where we're talking about not only the stores being shut down, but in the online service. But Nintendo is ready to move on. So I'm hoping that means that because they're on to like this new setup for their online services, that the Switch won't be turned off 11 years later, because I mean, technically that's, or 11 or 12 years later, because technically that's only like 5 years from now, but who knows? Nintendo does some weird stuff. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Mr. Pete, who says, hoping to see Red Dead Redemption 2 get a 60 FPS patch finally, now that it's been added to the first one on PS5 at least. I have no idea why Red Dead Redemption 2 does not have an update for the newer systems to go past 30 frames, because both systems would be able to handle it and all. Like, it just seems strange. Even Microsoft in those leaked documents thought that there was going to be some sort of update to Red Dead Redemption 2 to do that. Like they had it part of like their Game Pass setup. Oh, can we buy and put in Game Pass? Oh, well, you know what? I bet you Take-Two is going to have a patch and then a PS5 and an Xbox Series version of Red Dead Redemption 2. They thought that was happening like over a year ago. So it's not just us who were wondering where this thing is, and I guess it's possible that COVID and other things kind of threw a wrench in their plans and things got delayed. We see that across the board. So maybe it's possible that in a year or two, it randomly pops up on Twitter, oh yeah, there's a patch, or oh yeah, we're launching the PS5 and the Xbox Series version. Now you get better visuals and 60 FPS. I would really like to see that, because I will admit, while Red Dead Redemption 2 looks really good at 4K, the backwards compatibility and all of that, it definitely feels sluggish, and seeing Red Dead Redemption with that 60 FPS patch certainly makes me want it for RDR2. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. We're Sony dealing with multiple data breaches, but this most recently reported one apparently affecting 6,800 past and present Sony employees. And then also, what about Super Mario Bros. Wonder? Let me know if you made your way out to one of these retail stores that had the demo. Let me know what you thought about it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.